Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by a children's book author. She is also into film and TV and was a one-time professional clown, Sarah Jillian. We're going to be talking to her about her career, her books, and everything that she's up to. And she's just notified me that she has a lot going on. So we're going to be interested to hear about it. So Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Curtis, for having me on your show. It's my pleasure to be here.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, yes, I've sort of had a long career of artistic different things. I started out as an artist, originally wanting to be an actress and going to acting school when I was 6 years old and, wanting to pursue that dream, and then going into art. And from there, I decided to move to New York and pursue acting when I was a teenager, but came back to Toronto because I was offered a job as a professional clown. So the money was good and I didn't have to audition. So I thought I had the job, and then decided to start a business with other clowns. So I had clown business for a while, and I had 10 clowns working for me. And then on and off, I would have art shows. And actually, going back to when I was younger, before that, I sold my artwork. I started selling my artwork when I was very young. I was about 11 years old, and I took my artwork to print shop, and they said to me, hey, we like your artwork. Would you like to have an art show? So I said, sure. So I had an art show. I guess I was 10 or like maybe 11. And that got me thinking that maybe I could sell my artwork. And I started making cards out of at the print shop and selling them to stores. So I thought, wow, that's going over well. And I was actually encouraged by an artist who said to me in one of the stores that I took my art to when I was 11, he said, just whatever you do, just keep going and never give up, no matter what anybody says to you. Just keep going because you got something here. And when you're really young and somebody says that, so I sort of stayed in the art field. I went to graphic art school, but at the same time, I had the bug to be an actress. So I took more acting classes. And as I mentioned, moved to New York, but then moved back to be a clown. And, and then at a very young age, I got married and had a child and was at home. So I was still clown part-time, and then an actress doing a few commercials, and then decided when I was at home, I was really inspired to write a series of children's books, and I had them published, and they were put on Amazon. And actually, the first one, when it came out, was rated in the top 3 in Bedtime and Dreaming, because it was a silly little story about a little boy who was having wild dreams, and it really appealed to children because it was funny. Like, the dreams were like, can my cat really fly an airplane? And is my cat really sucking up all the socks with the vacuum cleaner at night? And all these things. But the moral of the story at the end, after he had all these wild dreams, he went to his parents and he said, did I, can I really make my dreams come true? Because he was kind of giggling, and his parents said, oh, of course you can make any dream come true. And he thought to himself, that's crazy, because my dreams are pretty crazy. So it was a great writing the books and getting them out was only part of what I felt I needed to do in life, I think, because it was being behind things, as an artist, when you do your artwork, and then that's your artwork. But there was part of me that still wanted to entertain in a different way. So I decided again, and it was only like during the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, I said to myself, that's it. I want to go back to acting really badly. So I set myself up to do that. And I ended up in two, or actually three feature films during the pandemic that were filmed remotely with Steve Oakley from MTV in California. And that was exciting. And then I thought, well, you know what? I think I need an agent. So I got myself an agent. And after that, I started, with a lot of auditioning. And I got a series in New York. I worked on a series there, just a brief series. And then Chicago, I was asked to do a project there. I just got back from there. And then now I was cast it was really quite exciting because I got involved with the project. It's Desert Fiends by Sean C. Phillips. He's the director and the writer of this project. And I got involved at the beginning and then slowly became this, like, the cast is now Eric Roberts and Tom Arnold and Bia Ling, and a couple of weeks ago Michael Perry, or yeah, and and he was from Eddie and the Cruisers, and I was like, wow, that's cool. And it just even and the executive producer just recently joined in, and he's a great talent who's worked on Halloween and some really great films. So that's exciting, and that will be. They've done a lot of the filming in Las Vegas, and my role as a vlogger again, I think is going to be remote. I got an email a few days ago saying that I would be sent a script, and it most likely be a remote role, but I'm not sure. I have no idea, and I'm looking forward to finding out. And that's very exciting. And then on top of that, when I get bored, I write, and I wrote another series of children's books, which are it's funny because I got a puppy in January, and he's from the beaches of Trinidad, and he's such a character that I just was inspired to write a series about him being this puppy from another planet. And again, it has a strong moral because he wants to go with a person that he meets on the beach back to her planet. And when he realizes that it's not as good as what his planet was originally, he wants to get back to his planet. So it's an adventure story. So that was another thing that I was working on. And again, I was involved with the Heart of Hollywood magazine, and they have asked me, and now I'm running for cover model again. I lost last time, but I came in third. So I thought I'd try it again. And yeah, so those are the things that are going on. And that's basically me. What's happening?
Well, tell the listeners, for those who might not know, what a professional clown is.
That was the best. That was the most fun ever, I think. I had a clown agent, and professional clown. It's funny because there at the time that I was a professional clown, and I'm sure it might be different these days because everything is different. But I think, we sort of basically had a union, and it was sort of, believe it or not, you had to, you couldn't take a job that was less than $150 an hour, because if you did, then the other clowns would open up doors for cheaper clowns. So we got paid a lot of money, for these jobs. And a lot of them, I did a lot of face painting. So I had a box of makeup, to do face painting at big shows. My agent would book me into big parties where there'd be, I'd say, oh God, seemed like 200, 300 children, but it was probably only like 50 or 60. But it just seemed, you're painting little children's faces for an hour straight. And then, if it was usually an hour job, or 2 hour job, sometimes 3 hour job. And then I got into promoting, like, it was clown promotion. So then professional clown being in that, in promoting, then you would be, it's like, if you've seen, it's funny, if you saw Joker, with Jacques Phoenix, with the sandwich board, where he's a clown, and that's basically what a promotional clown does. But again, you get paid an awful lot of money for a very short period of time, so it's all worth it. And when I did it, I had a couple of contracts that were very big with different companies that hired me and then had me hire clowns. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. They would meet with me, and I did a white face on them, and I had a certain look on their face. I did their makeup for them, and then I gave them all the same outfits, and I told them all to bring music, and I had them listening to music. And like, this was back in the day with like Sony Walkmans. So that was part of the job. You had to have a Sony Walkman and just bring yourself, and we would meet, believe it or not, McDonald's, and we would all go into the bathroom, like, you know the guys, I couldn't take the guys into the bathroom, of course, but I did their makeup, and they dressed, and then we would all load into different cars, and we would go to the job. And I would say to these kids, let's just dance, like, because you're promoting the businesses. So they had their music on, whatever their tunes were, and that's what they would do. And the companies loved what happened because they were drawing attention to their businesses. So that's my take on being a professional clown is, and then of course, like, I had an agent, and, I did a few singing telegrams in hospitals for children, newborns, and, parties, and a balloon. Oh, that was the other thing, was the balloon making. I had to get down, had actually a pump, but and I would, like, strap the pump to my waist and then have a bag of balloons. And I was just really creative with the balloons. So if the kids, I'd say, would you like? And they'd say, well, I want you to make me a truck. Or, kids have crazy imaginations, and it was so much fun. They'd say, I want a truck, or I want a house, or whatever they wanted, I would create for them with my balloons. So it was a really creative, fun job. I loved it. I just love working with kids. And I guess that's how I ended up, doing the children's books, because I sort of, my mind, I have that sort of imagination that wanders, and like children's minds are like that too, I guess.
Well, you started out young as a reporter at like 9 years old at the CBC. So tell the listeners what that experience was like.
Well, that was a lot of fun too. I got a job. My mother was an actress, and so have to admit, I mean, it's sort of, you end up meeting everybody in the business because they're sitting around your kitchen table. But for some reason, I ended up being on as a host on CBC Radio in Toronto as a host of a show called Country Living, because at the time we were living in the country. So she thought, well, this would be this kid would be great on radio. So yeah, I was very, very young. And that was a lot of fun. Just talking about what was going on the farm. So, we had a farm, but it wasn't a working farm. It was just, we had horses and dogs and chickens and cows in the fields, but they were neighbors' cows. But being would report on what was happening in the country that was a lot of fun.
Okay, well, you also appeared in a rock video in the 80s. So tell us about that.
Oh, that was fun too. My friend was in a band. Actually, I started out too when I was very young in high school, doing lights for bands in clubs because I really like music, and I gravitated towards the visual of the stage and the lights and the music. So somebody put me behind a lighting board and they said, Sarah, you take over the lights. And I became my job at all the clubs. I would go up, and I was only 13 at the time. They'd let me in. They didn't know how old I was. And they'd say, Sarah, get on the board. We got these band, and so I did all the new wave bands, and I was very young. So I met all the musicians and they all were my friends. And so it turned out that one of my friends ended up with a big contract. And, when you're young, it was so exciting. They did a rock video. And so they said, would you like to be in it? And I was like, of course. So that was fun. Yeah. Yeah. I did that when I was younger as well.
Okay, well, tell the listeners about your children's book. Tell us what we can expect when we read them and where we can get them.
Well, there's a series on Amazon, and actually, there was originally my series, Did I Really Dream Last Night? I used my married name at the time. So it's Sarah Pulaski, which is I started using it as a pen name. So that series is on Amazon, and that was put out by Eloquent Books. And it's, as I said, Did I Really Dream Last Night? And that's the stories of the little boy who his father owns a zoo in the little town of Dill in the province of Pickle. And so they're like, if you think about it, they're always in a dill pickle, which, I always say, oh my God, we're in a pickle. So I thought, well, they're going to live in dill pickle. So this family lives in dill pickle, and every year the little boy, his father gives him a different animal for his birthday, and he experiences the animal doesn't sleep very well the first couple of nights, and it keeps the little boy awake. And it's reflective to what was actually happening with my son. My son had a cat, and the first book is about a cat named Clove, and that was our cat, Clovey, who, when she was a kitten, kept my son awake. She would get under the covers and bite his toes, and he would, scream all night. and so I became a book because I was actually, one morning I was working out and I was actually swimming, and I thought to myself, I wonder what cats dream. And then I just started thinking about dreaming and thinking about the cat and thinking, and somehow I got into this whole idea of dreams and the cat, and then it became a story, and I went rushing home and wrote down the story and started working on it and finished the book in probably a month. And that's because I'm the illustrator as well, and it was about 42 pages, so it was a lot of work, but I just sat down and put my mind to it and then got myself an agent. And the agent, and this was, you know, all done over the internet. I got an agency to represent me, and then they went off and found somebody to publish, and I went from there. And yeah, so they're available. That series, it's actually a series of 6 books, six different animals, but only 3 are published from that series, because the 4th book, I decided at that point to shift. I kind of got bored with, I'd finished the illustrations and the stories. Everything's finished for book 4, 5, and 6. But my interest in working with that publisher, I decided I didn't want to work with them again. And then I traveled. I went to Costa Rica, and I had, it's funny because in all my illustrations since I was a child, I'd always put palm trees, and I'd never actually seen a palm tree. And you might think, well, that's really odd. Like, everybody sees a palm tree at, some point in their life. But I hadn't seen a palm tree. So when I went to Costa Rica, I was like, oh my God, they're the most beautiful trees. And in Costa Rica, in the trees are all these animals. There's these snakes and iguanas and not koalas, those bears. What are they called again? The little fuzzy things that hang upside down. I forget the name of them.
Not koala bears, is it?
But no, not koala bears. There's another name for these bears. Anyways, I was very inspired, and I wrote a book, Up in the Trees, a children's book, when I got back. And I thought, well, that's my focus was going to be. I turned from the series that's on Amazon now. I thought, well, I'm going to put this book out. And I started without an agent, which you can't really do. I started sending my books, this particular book, off. And I got some feedback, which was really positive, but wasn't, it's hard. It's a difficult business, children's publication, because it seems a very popular thing to do these days is to write a book. And I guess it's competitive, and they expect that you have an agent to represent you. So because I didn't have an agent, it was a little more difficult the second time. So that too. And when the pandemic came, I decided, instead of working on my art and working on that, I wanted to work as an actress, and shifted my focus onto that. But, the next book that I wrote just recently, it's called, actually, I haven't looked at it for about 2 weeks because I've been distracted with auditioning, but it's called Prince from the Beach, and it's about my dog Prince. And hopefully I will have an easier time having that one published, because that is, I find to be, I don't know. I think that the ideas are more solid than up in the trees, the one about the animals from Costa Rica, although I thought that would be very educational for children, and funny too, because the animals are pretty funny. And the end of that particular story is kind of funny, because it has like a catch to it, which I won't tell you just in case it's published. But the prince from the beach, the one that I am working on right now, is very it's very much fantasy, and children love fantasy, and it's very funny too because he's very much a character, Prince, my dog, and he is a puppy, and he was found on the beaches of Trinidad and brought back, and I picked him up, and he's been with me ever since, and he's such a little character. He's I call him an old man in a puppy suit because uh he's very wise as a little dog. So he's got such a character that you can't help but love this character. So I had to put it into words and into illustrations, and I think it'll be a better selling series than the first one, although the first one did really well because it too is very funny.
Okay, well, let the listeners know about any upcoming things that you're working on that we need to know about.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, and also, well, I mean, I've done a few cosmetic modeling things for Canadian cosmetic company, and that's kind of fun too. The modeling is kind of fun as well. So, I'm sort of branching out into different. I'll do, anything that creative and fun is sort of, it makes you feel, gives you a sense of, you know, your soul feels satisfied, or your spirit feels satisfied, or both. It's really a good feeling. I feel like it's part of my dreams. It's part of my dreams, and to be able to share um, my artistic abilities with other people is really nice. It makes me feel good to be able to do something and then to have, to share it with an audience, whether it's on paper or visually, or and I'm actually have a lot of different social media sites now where I promote absolutely everything I do. And I'm making quick little videos too, where I add music and do something kind of on the clown side, not very serious, because I have a tendency, I don't know, I have a really hard time. I mean, life is very serious, but I always approach everything with a sense of humor. So my videos are very short. They're like 20 seconds to 40 seconds of fun, and they're posted on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook, and just I've got a YouTube channel, and I'm just kind of everywhere out there, just sharing. Sometimes I'll post my art, and sometimes I'll post what I'm doing. This particular interview, I did a photograph of myself, and I just sort of get out there, so people
Absolutely.
can. Yeah, so I think that people can just sort of say, if they follow me on any of those social media sites, they can see, what I'm up to, and where I'm going, because
Well,
I don't
speaking of that,
know.
go ahead and give out your contact information since you're already talking about it. Website, social media, what people can keep up.
Yeah, well, my Instagram is that Sarah 1234. My Twitter is Sarah Jillian 71. And my TikTok is so much fun because there's all the editing that's done there. I love it. And that's Sarah Jillian 71. And then there's my Facebook, which is just Sarah Jillian. That's SarahJillian. And there's LinkedIn, which is again Sarah Jillian. What else? Am I missing anything? Did I get everything? Oh, and my YouTube is Sarah Jillian. I believe it's just Sarah Jillian. And actually, if you Google Sarah Jillian, you'll see all those sites. It's very easy to find me. It's kind of scary actually, because if I Google my name, I'm like, oh my God, all that's there. You don't realize that everything you do is like up there on the internet. It's there and you're exposed, which is fine. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying, I'm just entertaining in different ways. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, well, close us out with some final thoughts. Maybe something I forgot to touch on that you would like to talk about, or just any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
I don't know. I think that, whatever, I know your show is about living your dreams or fulfilling your dreams or did that. It's funny, my books or Did I Really Dream Last Night and my other book, I gravitate towards believing that you should really follow your dreams as much as you can, because that is that is where you will be most happy. And so I know that it's really difficult sometimes because you can't do it, you can't stick with it. You have, people will say, well, I have to make a living, so I have to do this. And yeah, that's all very true. I mean, we do have to do that, but at the same time, there's a part of you that could be doing what you enjoy, and then you may end up being able to do it full time, because if it's part of your dreams and you're making it come true for yourself, then it can actually be your life. That your dreams you can actually become your dream, and I just believe in sticking with it, because and it's very hard, because people will say, and so many people in my life have said, don't do why, you need to do this, you need to do that, but what you want, and how you feel. And I think to get in touch with that is most important, because life is really short. And so just my thing is just do it if you can, and not if you can, but do it. like Nike, like really, I think they've got it down. Just do it.
Absolutely, listeners, just do it. And I also need you to just follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. If you have any guest or topic suggestions, just send them to cjackson102@cox.net. Just tell a friend about the show. Thank you for listening. And Sarah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Curtis, for having me on your show.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.